Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night, your room bathed in the cold, flickering glow of a screen. You don't remember falling asleep, but your fingers are still curled around your phone, thumb twitching as if scrolling through. An endless feed. The clock reads 3:07 a.m., but you can't stop. You don't want to stop. The videos, the posts, the streams, they pull you in like a riptide, dragging you deeper into a digital abyss. You tell yourself, just one more, but the algorithm knows better. It knows you better than you know yourself. Now imagine this. You're not alone. Across the city, in dimly lit apartments and suburban homes, millions of others are doing the same. Faces pale and hollow-eyed, they stare into their screens, their minds consumed by a relentless flood of content. They laugh, they cry, they rage, but none of it is real. It's all curated, calculated, designed to keep them hooked. And it's working. But here's the question that should chill you to your core. What if it's not just entertainment? What if it's something far more sinister? History is littered with examples of mass distraction, bread and circuses, propaganda, opiates for the masses. But this is different. This isn't just distraction, it's absorption. It's a slow, insidious erosion of self, a surrender of autonomy to an invisible force that feeds on your attention, your time, your very essence. And the most terrifying part? You don't even notice it happening. You scroll, you swipe, you consume. And the world outside grows darker, quieter, emptier. Relationships wither, dreams fade, reality itself begins to blur until you can't tell where the screen ends and you begin. But what if this isn't just a metaphor? What if it's a warning? What if the screens are not just reflecting our desires, but shaping them? What if the algorithm isn't just a tool, but a predator, stalking us in the digital wilderness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? And what if it's already too late to escape? The question lingers, heavy and unspoken, as the screen's glow grows brighter, pulling you back in. But before you disappear entirely, consider this. What happens when the entertainment ends and the horror begins? To understand the true horror of entertainment addiction, we must first confront the uncomfortable truth about human nature. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And in the digital age, we have perfected the art of avoidance. The screens, the feeds, the endless streams of content. They are not just distractions. They are mirrors, reflecting back the parts of ourselves we are too afraid to confront. But mirrors can also distort. Friedrich Nietzsche warned of the dangers of nihilism, the creeping sense of meaninglessness that arises when we lose touch with our deeper purpose. In a world dominated by entertainment, this nihilism takes on a new form. We scroll through life, numbed by the constant barrage of stimuli, our minds too fragmented to grasp the gravity of our own emptiness. The algorithm feeds us what we want, but it also feeds us what we fear: anger, envy, despair, until we are trapped in a cycle of emotional consumption. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher of pessimism, saw the human condition as a perpetual oscillation between boredom and desire. In the digital age, this oscillation has become a feverish, unending loop. We crave novelty, stimulation, connection, but the more we consume, the emptier we feel. The algorithm exploits this paradox, offering us endless variety but no real satisfaction. It's a machine designed to keep us hungry, forever chasing the next hit of dopamine. And then there is the uncanny, the psychological phenomenon that occurs when something is almost familiar but not quite. The digital world thrives on the uncanny. It mimics reality so closely that we begin to mistake it for reality itself. Our online personas, our curated lives, our filtered emotions, they are close enough to the truth to feel real, but they are not. And this dissonance, this subtle but persistent unease, erodes our sense of self. Jean-Paul Sartre famously declared, "Hell is other people." But in the age of entertainment addiction, hell is not other people. It is the absence of ourselves. We become spectators in our own lives, watching from a distance as our identities dissolve into the digital void. The horror, then, is not just the addiction itself, but what it reveals about us. It exposes our vulnerability, our need for connection, our fear of solitude. It shows us how easily we can be manipulated, how willingly we surrender our autonomy for the illusion of control. But this is only the beginning. The algorithm is not just a reflection of our desires, it is a reflection of our darkest impulses. And as we dive deeper into the digital abyss, those impulses begin to take on a life of their own. What happens when the mirror cracks? What happens when the distortion becomes the truth? The consequences of entertainment addiction are not always visible. They seep into the cracks of society, quietly reshaping the way we think, feel, and interact. But if you look closely, you can see the signs, the subtle shifts in behavior, the growing sense of disconnection, the creeping unease that something is deeply wrong. Consider this. In 2017, a study revealed that the average person spends over 6 hours a day consuming digital media. By 2023, that number had climbed to nearly 8 hours. That's 1/3 of our lives spent staring at screens, lost in a digital haze. But what are we losing in exchange? Neurologically, the effects are staggering. The constant stimulation of digital media rewires our brains, shortening our attention spans and eroding our ability to focus. We become addicted to the instant gratification of likes, shares, and comments, our reward systems hijacked by the algorithm. Over time, this addiction dulls our capacity for deep thought, creativity, and empathy. We become hollow shells, driven by impulse rather than intention. But the horror goes deeper than individual psychology. Entertainment addiction is a societal contagion, spreading through communities like a virus. Families sit together in silence, each member absorbed in their own device. Friendships are reduced to text messages and emojis, devoid of genuine connection. Romantic relationships are strained by the constant intrusion of social media, as partners compare their lives to the curated perfection of others. And then there are the cultural consequences. In his dystopian novel, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley envisioned a society kept docile by endless entertainment. A really efficient totalitarian state, he wrote, would be one in which the political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. Sound familiar? Indeed. The digital age, we are not coerced, we are seduced. We willingly surrender our time, our attention, and our autonomy to the algorithm, trading our freedom for the illusion of choice. The result is a society that is increasingly passive, apathetic, and disconnected from reality. But the most chilling consequence of all is the erosion of truth. In a world dominated by entertainment, reality becomes malleable. Facts are drowned out by misinformation, and truth is reduced to whatever generates the most engagement. We lose the ability to distinguish between what is real and what is fabricated, our perceptions shaped by the algorithm's invisible hand. And as the lines between reality and fiction blur, something sinister begins to emerge. A new kind of horror, one that thrives in the shadows of our collective unconscious, a horror that is not just consuming us, but becoming us. There comes a moment, a fleeting, terrifying moment, when the veil lifts and you see the horror for what it truly is. It might happen in the dead of night as you lie awake, the glow of your phone casting eerie shadows on the walls. Or it might strike in broad daylight as you scroll through yet another endless feed, your thumb moving on autopilot. Suddenly you realize you are not in control. The algorithm is. This moment of awakening is both a blessing and a curse. To see the horror is to confront it, and that confrontation is unbearable. It forces you to reckon with the time you've lost, the relationships you've neglected, the person you've become. But it also offers a glimmer of hope, a chance to break free from the nightmare. History is filled with examples of those who dared to awaken. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote extensively about the human capacity for meaning, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. In his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, he argued that the primary drive of humanity is not pleasure, but purpose. And purpose cannot be found in the endless scroll of a feed. So how do we reclaim our purpose? The first step is to confront the algorithm, not as a tool, but as an adversary. This means setting boundaries, limiting screen time, curating your digital environment, and reclaiming moments of solitude. It means resisting the urge to reach for your phone every time you feel bored or anxious, and instead sitting with the discomfort. The second step is to reconnect with reality. This might sound simple, but in a world dominated by screens, it is a radical act. It means having face-to-face conversations, spending time in nature, and engaging in activities that require your full attention. It means rediscovering the joy of creation, whether through art, writing, or simply building something with your hands. But the most important step is to confront the void, the emptiness that the algorithm has been filling. This is where the true horror lies. The algorithm thrives on our fear of the void, our desperate need to fill every moment with stimulation. But the void is not something to be feared. It is a space for reflection, for growth, for meaning. It is where we confront our deepest fears and desires, and where we begin to rebuild our sense of self. Breaking free from the nightmare is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to face the unknown. But it is possible, and in that possibility lies a glimmer of hope. But beware, the algorithm is always watching, always waiting, and it will do everything in its power to pull you back in. Here is the ultimate truth, the revelation that will haunt you long after you've put down your phone. The algorithm is not the enemy, we are. The horror of entertainment addiction is not some external force imposed upon us. It is a reflection of our own desires, our own fears, our own emptiness. The algorithm is merely a mirror showing us what we already are, a society addicted to distraction, terrified of silence and desperate for meaning. But the mirror is cracking, and what lies beneath is even more terrifying. The digital age has given us unprecedented power to connect, to create, to communicate. But it has also exposed our deepest vulnerabilities. We are fragile, fragmented, and deeply afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of being forgotten, afraid of facing the void. And so we turn to the algorithm, hoping it will fill the emptiness. But it cannot. It only amplifies it, feeding our fears and desires until we are consumed by them. The ultimate horror is not the algorithm itself, but what it reveals about us. It shows us a world in which we have willingly surrendered our autonomy, our creativity, and our humanity for the illusion of connection. A world in which we have become slaves to our own impulses, trapped in a cycle of consumption and despair. But there is a way out. The way out is not to destroy the algorithm, but to transcend it, to recognize that we are more than our desires, more than our fears, more than the sum of our clicks and scrolls, to reclaim our humanity, not by rejecting technology, but by using it with intention and purpose. This is the final, most chilling revelation. The horror is not out there, it is within us, and so is the solution. As you sit there staring at your screen, ask yourself this: what are you running from? What are you searching for? And what will you do when you finally find it? The choice is yours, but choose quickly. The algorithm is waiting.